My name is Elena. 5 years ago, my sister told everyone I was sleeping with her husband. By morning, I didn't have a family anymore, and she made sure I never would again. If you've ever been erased from your own life, you'll understand what comes next. Before I tell you how I ended up standing across from her in court as her attorney, I need you to understand one thing. I never touched her husband. Not once. But that didn't matter. Because in my family, perception was always stronger than truth. My sister Marina was the golden one. She had the softer voice, the prettier smile, the kind of fragility that made people protective. I was the sharp one, too direct, too ambitious, too honest. Our mother used to say, Marina needs love, you'll survive. And I did survive. I just didn't know I would have to survive her. When Marina married Daniel, I was genuinely happy for her. He was polite, quiet, little too agreeable. At the wedding, he shook my hand and said, I've heard you're the smart one. Marina laughed when he said it, not warmly. Something flickered in her eyes. I ignored it. I always ignored it. Back then, I was in my final year of law school. Family law. Irony has a cruel sense of humor. Marina used to call me late at night. He's distant, she'd whisper. Do you think he regrets marrying me? I told her what any sister would say. Talk to him, be honest. I didn't know she was collecting my words, saving them, storing them like ammunition. The first crack appeared 6 months into their marriage. Daniel started texting me. At first it was harmless. Can you recommend a birthday gift for Marina? What does she like lately? I answered briefly, nothing emotional, nothing personal. Then the messages changed. She doesn't understand me. You're easier to talk to. That's when I stopped replying. I told Marina. Immediately. I drove to her house and showed her my phone. I don't like this, I said. You need to see it. She stared at the screen for a long time. Too long. Then she looked at me and smiled. I knew it. The way she said it made my stomach drop. Knew what? That you wanted him. I laughed. Because it was ridiculous. Because it had to be a joke. It wasn't. The next 48 hours destroyed my life. She told my parents I'd been secretly meeting Daniel. She said I encouraged him, manipulated him, that I always competed with her. Daniel didn't deny it. He didn't confirm it either. He just said I was confused. Confused. That word cost me everything. My mother called me at 6 a.m. How could you do this? I didn't. You've always been jealous. Jealous. I hadn't even processed the accusation yet. By noon, my father sent a single message. Do not contact us. That was it. 28 years of being their daughter reduced to 5 words. Daniel stopped answering my calls. Marina blocked me everywhere, but she didn't stop there. She sent screenshots, edited ones, messages rearranged, sentences cut. In her version, I was flirting. In her version, I was pursuing him. And people believed her. Because she cried. I didn't. I was too stunned to cry. Friends stopped inviting me to things. One mutual acquaintance said quietly, It's not a good look, Elena. Not a good look. Like this was a branding issue. Like I'd chosen this. I showed people the real messages. It didn't matter. Once doubt enters a room, truth has nowhere to sit. 3 weeks later, I was uninvited from our cousin's wedding. My aunt said it's better if things calm down. Calm down, as if I was the storm. Daniel and Marina stayed married, publicly united, privately fractured. I know because 6 months later, he tried to contact me again, from a new number. I'm sorry, he wrote. I never meant for it to go this far. I didn't respond, not because I forgave him, but because I understood something then. This wasn't about him. It was about her. Marina needed me to be the villain. Because if I wasn't, she would have to face her own marriage. A year passed. No contact, no holidays, no birthdays, no family dinners. I graduated at the top of my class, no one came. I watched other families hugging in the auditorium. I clapped for strangers. Then I went home alone. That night, I deleted their numbers, all of them. It felt like cutting off a limb, but sometimes you amputate to survive. I moved to another city, started at a small firm. Long hours, low pay, no reputation to protect. Which was freeing, because I rebuilt everything from zero. I didn't talk about my family. When colleagues asked, I said, we're not close. That was the cleanest version of the truth. 3 years later, I had my own office. 5th floor, corner window, glass door with my name on it. Elena Petrova, attorney at law. The first time I saw it in gold lettering, I touched it to make sure it was real. I had built something without them, without her. And I thought that chapter was closed. I was wrong. Because 5 years after the accusation, My receptionist said 3 words that stopped my heart. Your sister's here. I hadn't seen Marina in half a decade, but I knew it was her before I stepped into the lobby. She still carried herself like porcelain, delicate, breakable. Except her eyes. Her eyes looked hunted. When she saw me, she stood. Elena? She said my name like it still belonged to her. I didn't hug her. I didn't smile. What do you need? She swallowed. I'm getting divorced. Of course she was. Daniel had finally left. Or she had. I didn't ask. There's more, she said. He's trying to take everything. Everything. The house, the accounts, custody. And then she said the one sentence she never thought she'd have to say to me. I need a lawyer. She looked at the gold letters on my office door, then back at me. I need you. I should have laughed. I should have closed the door, but I didn't because I'm not her. And this was going to be interesting. If you think this is where I agreed out of kindness, you don't understand me yet. I agreed because I wanted the truth on record. Legally. And this time, there would be no edited screenshots. This time, there would be evidence, and I was very good at evidence. I didn't say yes immediately. I let the silence stretch. Marina always hated silence. It made her feel it. He's saying I was unstable, she rushed. That I manipulated him, that I fabricated things. Fabricated, the word almost made me smile. And did you? I asked calmly. Her eyes flickered. No. It was too fast. I gestured toward the conference room. Come in. She walked past me like she still belonged in my life. She didn't. Once the door closed, I became someone else. Not her sister. Her attorney. Everything you say from this moment forward must be the truth, I said. If I find out you lie to me, I walk. She nodded. Too quickly again. Tell me everything. She started with the version where she was the victim. Daniel had grown distant, cold, controlling. He accused her of paranoia, said she imagined betrayals. Imagined. There it was again. He says I ruined his relationship with you, she added carefully. I watched her face when she said it. No shame. Only calculation. And did you? I asked. Her jaw tightened. You know why I did what I did? No, I didn't. Explain it to me, I said evenly. She looked down at her hands. I thought he liked you. That's not what I asked. Silence again. Finally, she whispered, he talked about you. All the time. There it was. Not an affair. Not proof. Insecurity. He said you were brilliant, disciplined, calm. She looked up at me then. I needed him to look at me like that. And instead of working on her marriage, she burned me down. I wrote nothing for a moment. Then I said, Daniel's attorney already filed? She nodded and slid the papers across the table. I scanned quickly. Irreconcilable differences, emotional instability, false accusations. He was building a narrative. And he was building it carefully. Custody? I asked. He wants primary. That made my focus sharpen. There was a child now, Lena. 4 years old. I had never met my niece. Marina hadn't allowed it. She can't grow up thinking I'm crazy, Marina whispered. No. But she already grew up thinking I was. I closed the file. I'll take your case. Relief flooded her face so fast it almost looked genuine. But understand this, I added. In court, I ask the questions. Not you. You follow my strategy exactly. She nodded. For the first time in 5 years. She looked smaller than me, and something in her hated that. Preparing a divorce case is like reconstructing a crime scene. You don't start with emotion. You start with facts. Financial statements. Communication logs. Therapy records. Bank transfers. Patterns. I requested everything. Daniel's lawyer responded quickly, too quickly. Which meant he thought he had the advantage. 3 weeks into preparation, I saw the first crack. There were deleted email threads. Not erased. Archived. People underestimate metadata. Timestamps don't lie, but I didn't confront Marina yet. Instead, I scheduled a strategy meeting. She arrived late, still dramatic, still breathless. I'm falling apart, she said before sitting down. No, I replied calmly. You're being evaluated. She frowned. What does that mean? It means the court will assess credibility, stability, consistency. Her fingers tightened around her bag. You believe me, right? That question again. Not, do you believe I'm right? But do you believe me? I believe evidence. I said. She didn't like that answer. Good. I slid printed emails across the table. Explain these. Her face drained of color. They're out of context. Then give me context. They were messages to a friend. Voice notes transcribed. She had admitted, not an affair, but exaggeration. I just needed him scared, she had said in one message. Scared of losing her, so she accused him of desiring her sister. Me. 5 years ago. My chest felt tight, but my voice stayed even. You understood the consequences? She shook her head. I didn't think it would go that far. It always goes that far, when lies meet ego. Did you ever tell our parents it wasn't true? Silence. That was my answer. No. One word, flat. And something inside me settled. Because now, this wasn't about suspicion, it was about confirmation. She had never corrected it. She let me disappear, on purpose. I stood and walked to the window. City lights flickered below. 5 years, 5 birthdays, 5 Christmases. 5 years of silence. Why come to me? I asked without turning around. She hesitated. Because you're the best. No, that wasn't it. I turned. Say it. Her eyes watered. Because you don't lie. There it was. She needed someone solid now because the illusion was collapsing. I walked back to the table. If I defend you, I said quietly, we do this my way. She nodded, but I saw something behind her eyes. Fear. Not of Daniel, of me. Because for the first time, I was holding the narrative. Court dates were set. Mediation failed quickly. Daniel wanted full control of assets and majority custody. He presented Marina as unstable, impulsive, paranoid, emotionally volatile. His lawyer was sharp, confident, and he knew our history. During one procedural meeting, he glanced at me and said, almost casually, this must feel personal. It's professional, I replied. He smiled. He didn't believe that, but he would, because personal pain doesn't weaken me, it sharpens me. The first hearing was packed. Divorces draw spectators when money is involved, and Daniel had done well for himself. Marina wore white, always the victim. Daniel looked tired, but composed. When I stood to speak, the room quieted. Because confidence doesn't shout, it settles. I outlined financial inconsistencies first. Hidden transfers, consulting payments to shell accounts. Daniel's jaw tightened. He hadn't expected that angle yet. Then I introduced communication evidence. Selective, controlled, enough to destabilize, not enough to reveal everything. Not yet. Because timing is everything. And there was one truth still waiting, a truth that would not just end a marriage, but rewrite 5 years of silence. And I was going to choose the moment carefully. Because this time I wasn't the accused, I was the one asking the questions. The second hearing was where everything shifted. Up until then it was procedural. Dry. Strategic. Predictable. But divorces aren't really about paperwork. They're about stories, and which version the court believes. Daniel took the stand first. Calm, measured, controlled. He spoke about emotional exhaustion, about living under accusation, about walking on eggshells. Then his attorney asked the question I knew was coming. Did your wife ever falsely accuse you of inappropriate behavior involving her sister? The room tightened. Marina's fingers dug into her lap. Daniel exhaled slowly. Yes. The word echoed. And what impact did that accusation have? It destroyed her relationship with her family. It damaged mine. It created years of tension. Years? He didn't look at me when he said it. But I looked at him, steady, unblinking, because he left something out. He left out the part where he let it happen. My turn came sooner than expected. I stood, walked toward the witness stand, and for the first time in 5 years, Daniel had to answer to me directly. Mr. Kovalenko, I began evenly. When my client first accused you of inappropriate communication with her sister, what did you say? I said I was confused. Confused about what? About boundaries. Did you deny having an affair? He hesitated. Yes. Clearly? Another pause. I believe so. Believe. I let the silence stretch. Mr. Kovalenko, did you ever inform my client's family that no affair occurred? His attorney objected. Relevance. Goes to credibility and damage, I replied calmly. The judge allowed it. Daniel shifted. No, why not? I didn't think it was my place, not his place. 5 years of exile and it wasn't his place. I nodded once, no further questions. I didn't need more. Seeds grow quietly. Outside the courtroom, Marina whispered, "You're not defending me." I looked at her. "I'm building the full picture." "You're exposing me." "No," I said softly. "You did that yourself." Her eyes flashed. And there it was again. That old resentment. Even now. Even after everything. She didn't regret hurting me. She regretted losing control. The third hearing was about custody. And that's where things became dangerous, because children complicate morality. Daniel's lawyer painted Marina as emotionally unstable. They presented text messages, late-night rants, voice notes, paranoid suspicions. Marina looked small at the defense table, and for a brief second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered the morning my father told me not to contact them again, and the sympathy dissolved. When it was my turn, I didn't attack. I reframed. Emotional distress, I said clearly, often emerges in environments where trust has been systematically destabilized. The judge leaned forward. I introduced therapy records not to show instability, but treatment. Consistency. Effort. Then I introduced something Daniel didn't expect. A timeline. 5 years ago. Initial accusation, family rupture 3 years ago. First documented anxiety episode 2 years ago. Postpartum complications, patterns, cause and effect, not hysteria. Impact. I wasn't just defending her parenting, I was dismantling the narrative, because unstable people don't seek structured therapy and maintain steady caregiving records. Manipulated people sometimes do. Daniel's confidence shifted. Subtle. But visible. And I wasn't done. There was one document I had held back, one piece of evidence that connected everything. I waited until the final evidentiary session. Timing. Always timing. When Daniel retook the stand, I approached slowly. Mr. Kovalenko, do you recognize this email account? He glanced. Yes. Is it yours? Yes. Please read the highlighted portion. He swallowed. I can't see clearly. I'll read it for you. I looked at the page. And I quote, I should have shut it down immediately. I let it spiral because I didn't want Marina turning on me. It was easier to let Elena take the fall. Silence. Absolute. The courtroom air shifted. His attorney objected frantically. Context. Oh, we'll discuss context, I replied. I looked at Daniel. You wrote this to a colleague, 2 years after the accusation, correct? Yes. So by that time you knew there was no affair? Yes. And yet you never corrected the narrative. His jaw tightened. No? Why? He looked at Marina, then at me, because it was easier. There it was. Not passion, not betrayal, cowardice. And cowardice cost me 5 years. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. No further questions. Marina was crying beside me. But not for me, for herself. Because now, the story was no longer hers to control. The ruling came 3 weeks later. Equitable asset division, shared custody. Not a dramatic victory, but a balanced one. The judge addressed both parties carefully. Marriages fail, she said, but narratives constructed to protect ego can cause collateral damage. Collateral damage. I felt that word settle somewhere deep. After court adjourned, Marina lingered. Daniel left quickly, avoiding eye contact, always avoiding. When the room emptied, she turned to me. You wanted that exposed. Yes, you humiliated me too. No, I said evenly. I documented you. She flinched. Do you hate me? The question sounded small, childlike. I thought about it. 5 years of silence, graduation alone, holidays alone. No, I said finally, I outgrew you. That hurt her more than anger ever could. I thought that would be the end. It wasn't. Because truth has ripple effects. 2 weeks after the ruling, my father called, for the first time in 5 years. I stared at the screen, almost didn't answer, almost let him feel what silence tastes like. But I picked up. Elena. He said my name carefully, like it might break. Yes. Long pause. We saw the transcripts. Of course they did, court records are public, and, I asked. Another pause. We didn't know. No, they didn't want to know. That's correct, I replied. Your move? My mother came on the line next, crying. I thought you hated her. I didn't. I thought you wanted what she had. I almost laughed. I wanted integrity. Silence. Then the question that always reveals everything. Why didn't you fight harder back then? There it was. Why didn't I scream louder? Why didn't I beg? Because I understood something they didn't. You had already decided, I said quietly. Nothing I said would have mattered. My father exhaled sharply. Regret has a sound. We were wrong. Yes, they were. But apologies don't restore time. We'd like to see you. Of course they would. Now that the narrative shifted, now that the truth was official. I'll think about it, I said, and for the first time, they were the ones waiting for my decision. Marina sent a message that night, 3 words, I'm sorry. No explanation, no defense, just that. I stared at it for a long time. Then I replied, I know, because I did. She was sorry now, but not then. And timing changes everything. 3 months later, I attended a legal conference. Panel discussion on ethical narratives in family law. Irony again. During Q&A, a young attorney asked me, how do you handle cases that feel personal? I smiled slightly. You separate ego from evidence. And if the damage is personal, you document it. The room laughed softly, but I wasn't joking. Because documentation is power, silence is power, control is power, not revenge, control. The final chapter wasn't loud, there was no dramatic reunion, no tearful family dinner, just gradual recalibration. My parents visited my office. They stood in front of the gold letters on the glass door, touched them, like I once did. We underestimated you, my father said. No, I corrected gently. You overlooked me. Marina didn't come that day. She wasn't ready. And maybe she never would be. That was fine. Because forgiveness isn't access, and healing doesn't require proximity. A year after the divorce, Daniel remarried. Quickly, predictably, Marina started therapy consistently. For herself this time, not for court. We exchange messages occasionally. Brief, neutral, cordial. But careful. There are things that cannot be undone. Only acknowledged. If you're wondering whether I ever wished it hadn't happened, no. Because exile forced me to build alone, and building alone made me unshakable. 5 years ago, I lost my family, or so I thought. What I really lost was the illusion that love protects you from narrative. It doesn't. Truth does. And only when it's recorded. If you've ever been painted as the villain in someone else's insecurity, remember this. You don't correct it with noise. You correct it with time, with competence, with undeniable documentation. Because one day, they may sit across from you, needing the very integrity they once questioned. And when that happens, you don't raise your voice, you raise the record, and you let the evidence speak. That's not revenge, that's architecture.